There I was standing there in the church, and for the first time in my whole life I realized I totally and utterly loved one person. And it wasn't the person standing next to me in the veil, it's the person standing opposite me now.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
That's one of Hugh Grant's memorable moments from the 1994 comedy 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Grant has been in countless films since and has a new one opening on summer screens. He spoke with our Tracy Smith in London.
Singing at Carnegie Hall is her dream, and I'm going to give it to her.
There are few leading men more charming than Hugh Grant.
Natalie.
Or, by his own admission, more difficult to work with.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yes. I've driven people mad on films that I've made. I want more takes, I want to try new lines, then I want to interfere in the editing process, and I want to interfere in the advertising process, everything. Pretty much Barbara Streisand in trousers, I am.
It's going very, very, very well.
His latest film is the true story of Florence Foster Jenkins. Meryl Streep is the tone-deaf diva who lived to sing.
Bravo!
And he's St. Clair Bayfield, her loyal enabler.
Excellent. How do I look?
Wunderbar.
Why did you choose Florence Foster Jenkins?
It was quite complex as a role, and it had Meryl Streep. And I thought I would be no kind of man if I didn't say yes.
And the idea of working with Meryl Streep was?
Well, partly, of course, exciting and partly intimidating, but mainly intimidating.
Intimidated or not, he's elegant, witty, and lovable. Kind of like the Hugh Grant you always thought you knew. Born in London, young Hugh Grant dreamed of a career on the soccer field. But after graduating Oxford, he was talked into trying his hand at acting.
Here we go.
And this is how most of America met him. 1994's 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
My job today is to talk about Angus, and there are no skeletons in his cupboard. Or so I thought.
At the time, Grant was still looking for his big break, and he didn't think this was it.
When the film was rough cut together, the producers and everyone sat together and watched the film and agreed it was the worst thing ever perpetrated in the history of cinema. There was no laughs, it was just awful.
No.
And I felt the same, and we all wanted to emigrate before the film came out.
How wrong they all were. 4 Weddings was a hit. Grant won a Golden Globe and a spot on the A-list.
And so I did. I rode that wave for a bit.
Then comes summer of 1995, and there was a bit of a bump in the road.
Yeah, it was a hiccup.
A hiccup.
Yes.
That hiccup, you may recall, was an arrest in Los Angeles for lewd behavior with a 25-year-old prostitute who called herself Divine Brown. It all happened just before a promotional tour for the movie 9 Months, and the news overwhelmed every newsstand.
Let me start with question number 1.
And talk show.
What the hell were you thinking?
Well, I was very naughty. I was very drunk. And, yeah, it was regrettable.
Do you think that the press covered that incident, the Divine Brown incident, I guess we call it, fairly?
Yeah, I was entirely to be expected that there would be a huge hullabaloo about that, particularly given this rather absurd persona that I had been given about who I was.
Which was?
Well, on the back of 4 Weddings. People thought I was this nice character I played in that film. And so I suppose the contrast between that person and this seedy behavior was juicy stuff. And I quite understand why it was a big story.
What's interesting is, did your career take a hit?
Well, no, not particularly. Because as you know, as well as anyone, Hollywood only minds about money. And that film did fine, the film that was coming out at the time. And yeah, that's all that really matters. As long as you make the money, they don't care what you get up to.
Hi.
And he's made his share of money. 1999's Notting Hill was, at that time, the most successful British film ever to land on U.S. shores.
I live in Notting Hill, you live in Beverly Hills. Everyone in the world knows who you are. My mother has trouble remembering my name.
So what next?
I don't know. I'm torturing someone at the moment about a film. I like to do that for a very long time, like a cat with a half-dead mouse. And then, and usually I walk away at the end and say, I'm not going to do it.
That's just part of your process.
I find it hard to sign on the dotted line sometimes.
Some might read into this a fear of commitment in general. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, I think it is fair, but it's not just commitment. Permanence scares me. I don't know why.
Is that marriage too? Does marriage scare you?
I have known a few good marriages, but very few. The others look to me like they're pretty miserable. I don't think that's a recipe for happiness.
The never-married Grant has 4 children from 2 relationships. And you might say he has another baby.
This is an office full of very brave people doing...
For the past 5 years, Hugh Grant has been the public face of Hacked Off, a lobbying group founded in the wake of the British phone hacking scandal. Here, they scour the tabloids looking for intrusive media coverage, not of celebrities like him, but of ordinary people like crime victims who are often hounded by the British press.
Does this occupy more of your time now than filmmaking?
Much more. Much more.
Much more?
Yeah.
And are you content that way?
I feel more satisfied. It's strangely bracing not to have people kissing my butt. And it's strangely bracing to be on big BBC news programmes confronted by quite scary interviewers and having to keep your end up and keep your wits about you. I say bracing, it's utterly terrifying.
One of his group's goals is to help shape legislation in Parliament, so Hugh Grant has spent a lot of time here, in and around the seat of government.
Have you ever thought about running for office?
No, not really. There were moments in the last 5 years when I realized that they have quite a lot of fun. But in the end, I think it would drive you mad. I'm not sure you can achieve enough. It's all about compromise. Well, you've seen House of Cards.
Of course, he's played his share of politicians, most notably as the dancing prime minister in 2003's Love Actually.
You didn't want to dance?
I dreaded the dance scene in Love Actually more than having my teeth extracted. You've got to be in the mood for dancing.
Yeah.
It takes me quite a lot of vodka before I really want to. Or if I'm alone at home with no one around, I like a bit of a dance sometimes in my pants.
You mean like risky business style?
Yeah, very much so.
Hey, Mr. Bayfield, I want to see you dance.
And at 55, he's at it again, trying to do it better this time. He's built his career thinking that way.
When I finished my degree at Oxford, I went and acted for a bit, and I was appalling. And with each part, I thought, well, that's embarrassing. I better do one more to show people I'm not that bad. And in fact, instead of taking a year, that's gone on for 35 years.
And do you still have that feeling, I better do one more?
Well, sometimes I think that's enough, and then there's always something that comes up.
And with Hugh Grant, it seems even the missteps can be charming.